Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm so glad you're here today. We got a great show lined up, some special guests here in the studio you're really going to enjoy. But let's start do our weather first, brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. All the way up to 83 degrees today, low of 61. This is great spring weather. Water temperature went up a little bit more today. It's reading 74.8. So we can almost round that off to 75 degrees. It's gone up 3 degrees since Friday. So it's been fascinating. River reading brought to us by Sand Hill Seafood. Good folks, good fresh local seafood right there. Catfish coming out of Choctaw River, and a group are coming out of the nearby Gulf of Mexico. The Apalachicola Bluntstown 9.7, and we mentioned this yesterday, it's dropping fast. There's going to be some good catfishing this weekend on the Apalachicola, from Owl Creek all the way down to all those other creeks. The Choctawhatchee Caryville, it's about leveled off now. It dropped last couple of days. It's leveling off at a reading of 5.0, okay? And their tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. Great tides all week long. We're looking at a high tide right in the middle of the day, 11:06, and low tide tonight at 10:10. A good 1.8 foot movement and really good situation there. And guess what? The wind's still blowing. It's coming out of the south-southeast at 10 to 15. All right, let's take our break and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back, folks, and look who's here. Captain Matt Smith and Captain Justin Leake. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning, Coach.
Coach, it's been a while.
It's been too long. We were talking since the three of us been together. It's been quite some time. They've been in and out with some one-on-ones and sometimes with Bill. And but anyway, glad to have you. We got so much to talk about. Like Justin said, we probably could put together 3 hours right here, couldn't we?
Nah, you bet.
First of all, we're going to talk about how well they've done on the TV show. It's doing great. And let's talk about it real quick. Tell folks when to see it.
So on Saturday mornings on the Discovery Channel at 7 o'clock Central Time, you'll see Chasing the Sun. You'll see a lot of local people, a lot of local scenery, a lot of local fish. And it's neat to have taken it, and which I did none of that. I can't take credit for that. Jamie Wilkinson and the city of Panama City Beach organized all this. And really kind of brought it to a new level, and it is really promoting our area in a positive light.
Yeah, anytime we get people fishing, that's great. And Matt, what have you been up to?
We're just staying busy on the water, fishing, and keeping it all together.
Well, listen, we were talking about the wind.
We were talking about the wind.
I talk about it in the morning, but then y'all experience it every day.
Yeah.
We have. It's been an interesting spring just from the standpoint of the weather and the inconsistency. Mm-hmm. Normally in March you expect the cold, you expect some late season cool fronts and wind and rain, and you kind of have to work around that. But by the time we get to April, things start to level out and get consistent. It didn't happen this year.
It blew all April.
Yeah. So here we are. We're getting into May and see what happens. I think it's going to be a great year.
It seems like every year is marked by some type of weather event.
Some kind of event. That's true. It really is.
And this year is the year of the wind.
I agree.
So far. Hopefully, I keep telling all my clients every day when we get off the boat, I say, well, right now we're paying our dues for this summer. This summer, just so y'all know, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're going to talk about what you've been catching a little bit later, but one of the things, y'all were in my outdoor class, and ironically I had Mandy do the show the other day, and she was in the same class.
Oh yeah.
And it was real cool that y'all are doing, still centered around outdoor activities. And you've been hog hunting a little bit.
Yeah, I have. One of my neighbors, Dennis Dunn, I shut up with a muddy truck, and that's why. But I tell you, with two sons now that are getting into it, that's kind of renewed a level of passion for everything in the outdoors. Yeah. Because now I get to see it happen for the first time through my kids' eyes.
Right.
And a lot of these experiences for me were obviously a lot of fun. That's why I still do it. But being able to see your kids do it, way better.
And you brought up a good point right there where we want to pass it down to the kids and the grandkids and just keep it going, our Panhandle tradition of outdoors.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And friends and family and all do that. And that always brings us about, we talked about this in class when y'all were 18 years old, acting like you were 12 years old.
Oh, yeah.
But we talked about conservation, about taking care it ain't like the old days where we're not shooting for food. Like my dad, they did it in the Depression.
Yeah,
Sure.
They
Sure.
needed the food.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It ain't like that anymore.
It
No.
isn't.
And y'all see it on a first-hand basis, because again, y'all out there and you know what the populations are.
We do.
So we'll get started on it. So we talked about on yesterday's show. I had Mike Norberg, the fish
Oh,
guy
yeah.
at the FWC, and he does it from a scientific basis.
That's right.
Y'all do it from a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's take it from there. So what have you been seeing at all?
You know, that brings up a good point. Going back to high school and looking at it from a scientific standpoint, whenever you're doing a science experiment, you always have a hypothesis first before you actually do your research and your experiment. And that's what Mike does, is the research, the science behind it. What we do is we've kind of learned to work with FWC. We make a hypothesis. We kind of let them know up front, hey, this is what we're seeing. I don't know why. You know, we can't explain this, but this is just what we're seeing.
The science is going to
And they take it and run with it. And then they'll look into it and research it. And we've had a lot of new regulation changes because of that. And I think we're going to find a better way moving forward to get changes pushed through quickly, so that way we're not, you know, making a reaction later on. You know, we can kind of be proactive about.
And we've talked about this. FWC has been really good at these meetings and all, and I get all their emails and all that. And I didn't realize this way back in the early days. But as I look more and more, they're really good about listening.
Yes, they are.
And y'all been in that situation where they're going to listen to you something.
They're
not going to do everything you want them to do.
Oh no. What we want, we just want to see. We want to give them a representative idea of what we're seeing. And one of the, I think the biggest factors is we formed a Panhandle Guides Association all the way over to the Alabama, almost Alabama state line to Carabel. 60 plus guides, and we're all communicating, we're all seeing the same thing. And so what we're providing, our data is not necessarily so much from the scientific standpoint, but just what we like to call real-time data.
Right.
Here's a group of guides throughout the entire region. This is what we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot of consistent things. We're able to pass that along to the FWC, to the state, and then they take that and combine it with their scientific data, and we think we're headed in the right direction on trying to forecast some of these issues before they become such a problem.
That's really good. And as a side note too, y'all always talking about what's biting over here, what's biting
That's
here.
right.
Y'all know where the redfish is going to be, where the school, and when the cobia coming through and all that. So
Sure.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about what they found out and what's going to be going on this coming next month or two. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I want to say a special good morning to Mr. J.D. Sasser from over in Overstreet. Watch the show every morning. Saw your daughter Denise the other night. She was at a little banquet with us, and appreciate you watching Panhandle Outdoors, and hope you have a great day today. Also, check this picture out. See if you recognize these two guys. This is from the book Full Box, and we don't have time to get into the story, but basically I told them if y'all want to be in my book, you better go catch some big fish, and y'all went that night caught them.
That's right.
We're going to print like next day. So anyway, that's where that picture comes from when they were seniors at both.
I think you might even let us out of school an hour early to
I think
go
I
catch
did.
a couple tries.
Well,
But do you know what boat that was on right there?
That
picture.
On Fred Myers.
It was on Fred Myers on his Wahoo
that
you eventually
bought.
Buying. A little history there.
Good little boat.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back, and y'all could go do this. You might not could do this tonight, could you?
I don't know. That would be a tall order.
Big trout.
Big trout.
Are getting hard to come by.
Getting hard to come by.
So and so we got a lot more people fishing now.
We
do.
And
We do.
so let's go from there. What were y'all talking about?
Well,
So one good way to look at it, and I've explained this a lot, and I'm going to try to do this quickly, but is almost like a hunting lease. So if you have a hunting lease that's 1,000 acres, and let's say you got 5 members on there, you can only take so many deer per member. Well, if you add another 3 or 4 members every year and keep taking the same amount of deer, eventually you run out of deer.
that's right.
Unless you have a system to start putting deer into there. And there are areas, like in Texas, highly populated areas that are doing stocking, redfish and trout and stuff. So that's something that we want to look into to try to help offset this population growth. And then one of the other issues we run into is if you have the same population, but everybody shifts the effort from one area to another, you run into another problem. And that's happened here because of all the closures of reef fish in the Gulf. A lot of people that used to keep, snapper in the spring, it wasn't that long ago in April, snapper season was open and everybody's snapper fishing. Now in April, there is no snapper season and everybody's fishing in the bay. So that shift of efforts caused more pressure on a lot of inshore species, and that's, I think, one of the problems that we have with numbers declining.
And it's tough for a lot of times, I think, for the state to necessarily get the data from that, because it takes some time for that to show up, right?
That's right.
You know, we see it. We see it on the water. We're going, hey, these areas are 3 times the amount of fishing pressure in this small area, but it takes.
Well, case in point would be the sheephead. We were piling up on the sheephead.
Exactly.
15 people, I know they were coming down, and I saw them doing it. Oh, yeah. And there was 15, then it went to 10, but now it's 8. Actually,
that's right.
They thought about going back and forth on that.
That's right.
That's a direct result of.
Yeah, and that was us working with the FWC. We had talked with them some. CCA was really played a big part, which I want to put a plug there for that.
Go ahead, talk about CCA.
So the CCA is going to have a banquet here in Panama City. It's actually out on the beach. May 10th, which is next Thursday. It'll start at 6 o'clock, and I go to those events. We'll be out there. It's always a good time, good fundraiser, good food, good people.
Okay.
So if you want to help, it's like anything. You can politics, anything in this country. If you want to help, you can. People think their voice can't be heard. But if you get involved with organizations, you go to the meetings, you talk with them, especially with the FWC. They're so good at listening.
Absolutely.
And we're talking, don't forget that big the redfish tagging tournament too.
That's right.
We're going to win that big truck.
That's right.
And,
that's right.
And that's coming up Memorial Day to Labor Day. Is that
Yep. And you can look all over the Gulf Coast where CCA has built up successful chapters and some of the accomplishments and things they've been able to do. Most of us working, you got a family, you've got busy lives, and it's nice to be able to work with and contribute to an organization that has the knowledge and the resources to make big changes and get things done. And so that's why we're partnering up and standing behind CCA.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Let's talk about the redfish, because the red snapper in the Gulf and the redfish in the inshore, that's a big target. And, just in a short period of time that y'all been in, and I'll compare that to the history of our fishing here. What have y'all seen as far as, say, redfish and all?
I mean, a lot of our childhood, and especially in our teen years, we did a lot of redfishing, targeted redfish a lot. Me and Matt both fished redfish tournaments. We obviously guide for redfish. So the redfish is a huge, important, the most important inshore species in the Panhandle. We don't have snook. We don't have many, bonefish, although Steve Bachman did catch one last year. On the fly here, which is pretty amazing. But, we don't have some of those glamour species. So the redfish, year-round, we can catch them. That's why it's such a priority to us to protect them.
Absolutely. And so we watched the consistency of the fishery and the population. There were some declines. There were areas where we consistently caught fish year after year when we weren't seeing the fish. One unique things about the redfish, when he's shallow, is you're looking at the fish a lot of times, so it's not a matter of, well, maybe they're here, but they're elsewhere, they're deeper, they're either there or they're not. If he's in 2 feet of water, and we're so fortunate with the clarity of our water, it's night,
we get to visually see these fish.
Yeah.
So you can really survey the numbers pretty accurately, just because the fact that they like to stay shallow and we can see them.
But as a result of conveying what we were seeing to the state through the process, and that's really what got our working relationship with the FWC started, and when eventually resulted in a reduction on the limit. It went back to 1 per person, which I think most people are in agreement is kind of the happy medium where we should be. And then there are the other species, the other things we see on the horizon of fish that probably are going to need some help. Yeah. A lot of people are in agreement. I know we've mentioned it before, and it's something just to continue on with the speckled trout.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speckled trout from a lot of regions throughout the state does seem to warrant.
Yeah, that actually, and that's one good thing about social media. There's a lot of negatives about it. We've had some issues with things on there, but one of the good things is we're able to communicate with people in a broader region. People statewide, like with the trout. So in other words, a lot of times it's hard to kind of argue a point that our trout fishing's suffering here, But is that just a local thing? Is that just our bay system? You know, in the past you didn't really know, but with social media you can communicate with people throughout the state, and you go, well, if it's happening in St. Augustine and it's happening in Vero Beach and everywhere else throughout the state, then we probably need to look at a new management plan.
Well, and the biggest thing of all to me is just the number of people that's coming in. I mean, it's not that, you know, they're not being over-harvested by the early settlers. No. It's just by just sheer number of people. And that's, you know, people coming in Panhandle by the droves.
Yeah, and I don't blame people for coming here. Who wouldn't want to have
That's it.
It's not helping our cause, but I kind of can't blame them for wanting to come here.
I feel like our generation, we're the future of the fishery is somewhat in our hands. And I feel like we're in a transformational period in history for all walks of life, business. Life's changing, and I think one of the things we've got to look at, we've got to accept that's no different than with our fisheries. We're going to have to make changes if we want to preserve and try to keep some of the things that we've valued for so long and pass it on to future generations. Leave something for our kids.
That's such a good valid point. We're going to take our final break, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Here with Captain Justin and Captain Matt. We're glad to have you all today, boys.
Glad to be here. Drinking coffee, talking fishing. What's not to like?
Don't get any better than this, other than if you're on the boat.
It could get better if we had a 3-hour show.
Yeah, 3-hour show.
People keep telling me to go to an hour show, and I could on days like today for sure. Okay, look at Fishing Game Time today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. We're looking at 3:21 to 5:21 this morning, wrapping that one up. But this afternoon, 3:45 to 5:45. And I say this every time, and y'all on the water all the time. You go through those periods of time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, y'all see it, don't you?
It's all a factor, and you always want to keep it in consideration.
Yep. I'm going to add some names. We're going to do a drawing tomorrow for Rod and Reel, Arisha Dutton from Deer Point Lake, Kristen McKay from Deer Point Lake, and also Clint McKay. So tomorrow we're going to do a drawing for another Rod and Reel. We're going to wrap up our spring sweepstakes. But next week, don't forget, we're leading into Mother's Day, so we're going to do a Mother's Day drawing. We'll have some pink Rod and Reels and some cups and all kind of neat stuff for you outdoor ladies.
Nice.
Sound good. Okay, let's get back on this. Go ahead.
All right, so on the conservation thing, just kind of wrap all this up and bring it home. So the FWC is doing a really good job with being proactive with some of these inshore species. A lot of times people confuse their management with some of the National Marine Fisheries, NOAA management, and kind of put the blame on the FWC. So a lot of things the FWC kind of get to set themselves, and then sometimes they don't get to make all the calls, especially on reef fish. So a lot of times people need to get involved with the process, see how that works, go to these FWC commission meetings. I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you want to have your voice heard, you can right there. You can sign up, you can talk. And a lot of times you'll see that some of the issues that you think that the FWC has caused is actually not done by them.
I'll bring up a quick point. We would not have dog hunting out for deer if some of these dog hunters didn't go to those FWC.
You're exactly right.
That's right.
You know,
it's a great
example.
example.
There right away, but go ahead.
That's exactly right. So if you want to have your voice heard, you got to be there. But the reef fish, you know, people a lot of times think because we're trying to slim down some limits on these inshore species that we're kind of anti-keeping fish, and we are not. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of reef fish out there. I'm sure most people know this. Red snappers, triggerfish, and amberjacks. They are more numerous now than we have ever seen.
Well, look at the beeliners.
And we need to open up some opportunities for those. And if we could open up some opportunities for those, that would take some of the pressure off these inshore fish.
Right. And in closing, you know, us guides, yes, we're proactive in this and we're involved, but we're not what determines it. We initiate a lot of this, but none of these decisions are made without public input. So it is everybody's opinion is valued. It's all taken into consideration. If nothing else, an email. You can email all 7 commissioners for the state of Florida with a click of a button. And
I feel very strong about it. You know, way before all this, even when y'all were in class, we talked about conservation. We talked about the future, and we talked about it. And here on the show, we had a biologist here yesterday. We got guys that are out there every day. And I feel the same way. You know, we talk about catch and release. I don't release everything I catch. I'm going to take home some fresh fish and eat it. But if I'm not going to eat it fresh, or if I'm not going to give it to somebody who needs it, it's going back in the water.
That's right.
And
moving forward, in our mission statement, we want to create a conservation-minded culture. Moving forward, and if we'll do that, and everybody will work together on that, we can preserve what we have and have great fishery, great opportunity, and all the people that come here specifically for our outdoor resources, we'll get the benefit.
And we've got to support each other too. And like the case of the month yesterday with Travis, you know, that guy had 20 bass hidden on some ice and all. And you know, we see stuff like that. We got to call him.
Absolutely,
he was checking them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, real quick, some fishing tips and all. Give us some quick fishing tips.
Right now, things are changing by the day. We do have some bait that's shown up, and you know, I think I always feel like we're kind of redundant on that, but we live and die by bait.
Oh, yeah.
And so bait is the key, and as we move forward and the water starts to warm, if you're not around bait, if you're not seeing bait, you need to look elsewhere.
Yeah. That's right. And Matt's talking about in the bay, you know, some pogies, some pilchard, stuff like that, just starting to show up. I mean, this week will be the week that a lot of bait shows up in the bay. But out in the Gulf, same thing.
Yeah.
The buoys starting to get cigar minnows, northern mackerel, Spanish sardines, stuff like that, just starting to show up this week, and that's why, you know, the kingfish bite's picking up out there. And like you just said about the water temperature, we're finally starting to reach those mid-70s, and that's what will really kick that off. So definitely have a rod with a short piece of wire ready.
What about real quick on the cobia? How's the cobia?
So that's another one that actually we did not really, me and Matt personally, didn't really get started with FWC, but there was a group from Pensacola and Destin that really got going hard on that, and the reason is, same thing. What's caused it, oil spill, all these different things, we don't know, but we know that the more that we keep, the less there are out there. So they need
just
help.
aren't many being seen or caught.
I mean, matter of fact, we did a show together. You remember that? We went out there and we caught them.
It's amazing. It's amazing what we did. We left school early. And 4 of us went and caught 4 cobia.
Yeah,
boom, boom,
quick
boom,
like.
And they were there.
Yep.
That's right.
So we kept all 4 of
we've
them.
been there. We've done it. I've seen it. I mean, we're talking about 20 plus years of spending a lot of time in the tower. There are just not that many fish left. I've caught 1 so far, and we released them alive.
Wow.
And we're really, have started pushing that, releasing, tag and release cobia.
Like the redfish, the cobia is such an important part of this region and what we do. Let's make it an example. Let's make it an example of we did right. We made attention. We got with the state and improved situation, and that'll come in time. Hopefully.
One quick thing.
All right.
10 seconds.
And the cobia, this will be the week. If you did want to go see one and catch one, this will be the week.
This is the way to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And it's been a great week. In fact, we got to go off there, but we're going to keep talking, and we might end up going fishing all. Always great to see you,
Always.
man. Justin,
Always
great to have y'all. Thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. We always appreciate the viewership, and always do something good today for your fellow man. And God bless you.
God bless you.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.